The millionaire surprises everyone and leaves after black woman tells beggar to pay rent. Okay, so picture this. Tuesday afternoon in downtown Chicago, right? Old Martha, bless her heart, is sitting on this park bench near Millennium Park. Windy as all get out, even for Chicago. She's in this faded flower dress, looking kinda lost. You know? She used to dream about seeing her son, Arthur, all successful and happy. Now, Arthur's got this ice-cold polite thing going on ever since they had that fight about his investments. Ouch. Martha's heading to the community center, helping out, trying to feel useful. 'Cause Lord knows, Arthur ain't calling much. Then bam, across the street, this young woman all fancy in. Her power suit starts tearing into this homeless dude. "Get a job! Pay your rent," she yells. You could feel the anger radiating off her. A shiny black town car's just sitting there, engine running. Suddenly the back door pops open and this guy steps out. Whoa. He's like straight out of Hollywood. Sharp suit, slicked back hair, the whole 9 yards. He gives the beggar a $100 bill and a real honest smile. But here's the crazy part. He looks up, his eyes lock with Martha's, and something flickers in his face. Like recognition or fear. Then, quick as a wink, he ducks back in the car and they peel out of there. Martha's jaw is practically on the ground. She recognizes him. John Sterling, the millionaire, known for being ruthless. But why did he hesitate when he saw her? Why that look in his eyes? It's like he saw a ghost. As Martha walks to the center, this awful thought creeps in. Could this be tied to that secret her mama took to her grave? About their family history? A secret Martha's been trying to bury for years. This day just went from 0 to 60 in a hot minute. This secret, it seems, is about to explode. And John Sterling, he's holding the match. Is he a danger to her? Or is he her only way out? Martha's got no idea, but she knows one thing. She's gonna find out. The truth, no matter what it costs her. Is she ready for what she might uncover? Only time and the Windy City will tell. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Martha's jaw is practically on the ground. She recognizes him, John Sterling, the millionaire, known for being ruthless. But why did he hesitate when he saw her? Why that look in his eyes? It's like he saw a ghost. As Martha walks to the center, this awful thought creeps in. Could this be tied to that secret her mama took to her grave? About their family history? A secret Martha's been trying to bury for years. This day just went from 0 to 60 in a hot minute. This secret, it seems, is about to explode. And John Sterling? He's holding the match. Is he a danger to her? Or is he her only way out? Martha's got no idea. But she knows one thing. She's gonna find out the truth, no matter what it costs her. Is she ready for what she might uncover? Only time and the Windy City will tell. She practically flew to the community center. Couldn't focus on her volunteer gig at all. Keep seeing John Sterling's face. That flash of something in his eyes. Haunted. That's what it was. He looked haunted. Later, back in her tiny apartment, Martha pulled out the dusty box. The one she swore she'd never open again. Yellowed letters, faded photos, Her mother's handwriting, spidery and elegant. The air in the room felt thick, heavy with unspoken words. She started reading. A chill ran down her spine. Names, dates, places, it was all a jumbled mess of secrets and lies. Then a photo. A young woman, barely more than a girl, with eyes that could melt steel. Her mama. Standing next to a man. A man with slicked back hair and a sharp suit. A younger John Sterling. Martha's breath hitched. No, it couldn't be. She flipped to the next letter. The date, it was 9 months before Arthur was born. And then, bam, the door bursts open. It ain't Arthur. It's the young woman in the power suit, the one from the park. But she looks different. Scared. Martha? Martha Jenkins? She asks, her voice trembling. Martha, heart pounding, just nods. The woman takes a shaky breath. My name is Jessica. John Sterling sent me. He said to tell you, Arthur isn't your son. The room starts to spin. The letters, the photos, the woman. It all blurs into a dizzying mess. What? What are you talking about? Martha croaks. Jessica steps closer, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and fear. He said Arthur is his son. That your mama, that she... Jessica chokes on the words. That she helped cover it up. That Arthur is John Sterling's son. The world stops. Martha feels like she's been punched in the gut. Screeching. A muffled shout. Jessica's eyes widen. Oh my God, they found me. I gotta go. He said if I told you, he said. Before Martha can even process what's happening, Jessica turns and runs, slamming the door behind her. Martha lunges for the window. She sees a black town car screeching away from the curb. And lying on the sidewalk, crumpled like a discarded newspaper, is Jessica. Dead. Dead. Martha stumbled back, slamming into the wall. Dead? Just like that? Because of her? Because of Arthur? The room swam. She had to get out. Had to think. Had to... She grabbed her purse, fumbled with the keys, and bolted out of the apartment. Down the stairs, out into the night. Chicago was alive. Horns blaring, people rushing. But all Martha could see was Jessica's lifeless body. She walked. Didn't know where she was going. Didn't care. Just walked. The wind whipped around her, cold and unforgiving. Just like John Sterling. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her arm. She screamed, Martha, it's me, Tony. Tony from the community center. Tony? Oh, thank God. She sagged against him, shaking. Tony, she's dead. That woman, Jessica. Tony looked confused. Whoa, slow down, Martha. What are you talking about? She tried to explain, the words tumbling out in a jumbled mess. John Sterling, Arthur, the secret, Jessica, dead. Tony listened patiently, his brow furrowed. When she was finished, he just stared at her. Martha, you need to go. To the police. This is serious. Police? No, no way. John Sterling had money, power. He'd bury her, just like he buried Jessica. I can't, Tony. I can't. Tony sighed. Okay, come on. Let's go back to my place. You need to calm down. He led her to his car, a beat-up old Honda. As they drove, Martha couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat. Tony's apartment was small, but clean. He made her a cup of tea, and she sat on the couch, trying to stop the trembling. Martha, you need to tell someone. This can't stay a secret. She knew he was right, but who could? She trust? Arthur! After learning he wasn't even her son? Suddenly, Tony's phone rang. He answered it, listened for a moment, then hung up, his face pale. That was my neighbor. He said there are police outside, looking for you. Police? How? How did they find her so fast? Then, a knock at the door. Loud, insistent. Tony looked at her, his eyes filled with fear. Martha, I gotta open it. He opened the door. 2 police officers stood there, grin-faced. Martha Jenkins? One of them asked. Martha nodded, her heart pounding. We need you to come with us. We have some questions about the death of Jessica Miller. They cuffed her. Cuffed her. Like she was a criminal. As they led her out of the apartment, past the flashing lights and the gawking neighbors, Martha saw something that made her blood run cold. Across the street, standing in the shadows, was John Sterling. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't even looking at her. He was looking at Tony. And then he nodded. Just a small, almost imperceptible nod. But it was enough. The police car door slammed shut. As they drove away, Martha knew. She wasn't just running from John Sterling. She was running from everyone. Because Tony had set her up. He was working for Sterling all along. And now she was all alone. Framed for a murder she didn't commit. But why? What was so important that Sterling would frame her? And why was Tony involved? Then a thought so horrifying, so unbelievable, slammed into her like a tidal wave. Arthur. What if Arthur wasn't just Sterling's son? What if Arthur was involved in all of this too? What if he knew all along? The car swerved, throwing Martha against the door. She looked out the window, the city lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of fear and betrayal. Her son. Her own son. Could he really be capable of such a thing? Was everything she thought she knew about her life a lie? The police car sped on, taking her further and further away from the truth. Or was it closer? One thing was certain. Martha was about to enter a world of darkness and deceit, where nothing was as it seemed, and the people she trusted most were the ones she should fear the most. The police car sped on, taking her further and further away from the truth. Or was it closer? One thing was certain. Martha was about to enter a world of darkness and deceit, where nothing was as it seemed, and the people she trusted most were the ones she should fear the most. The interrogation room was cold, sterile. Just a metal table, 2 chairs, a one-way mirror. Classic cop show stuff. They asked her the same questions over and over. Where were you? Did you know Jessica Miller? Why would you kill her? She kept telling them the truth. About John Sterling, about Arthur, about the secret. But they just looked at her like she was crazy. Mrs. Jenkins, we found your fingerprints all over the scene. We have witnesses who saw you running away. Witnesses? Seriously? Hours crawled by. She was exhausted, scared, alone. Then the door opened and a woman walked in. Late 40s, sharp suit, no-nonsense expression. Martha Jenkins, I'm Detective Rollins. Rollins didn't mess around. She laid out the evidence. The fingerprints, the witnesses, Tony's testimony. It looked bad. Real bad. Mrs. Jenkins, Rollins said, leaning in close, I think you're being set up, but I need you to tell me everything. Leave nothing out. So Martha told her everything. Again. Rollins listened, her eyes narrowed. When Martha was finished, Rollins sighed. Okay, I believe you, but we need proof. Proof. That's what it always came down to. How was she going to get proof against John Sterling? He was rich, powerful. He could make anything disappear. Then Rollins said something that made Martha's blood run cold. We found something else at the scene, Mrs. Jenkins. Something that connects you to Jessica Miller. A photograph. A photograph? What photograph? Rollins slid it across the table. Martha gasped. It was a picture of her and Jessica, laughing arm in arm, like they were old friends. But that was impossible. Martha had never met Jessica before. We found this in Jessica's apartment, Mrs. Jenkins. along with a note. It says, "Meet Martha at the park. The truth will be revealed." Martha stared at the photo, her mind reeling. This couldn't be real. It had to be a setup. But how? Then it hit her. The community center. Last year they had that fundraising gala. There was a photo booth. She took tons of pictures with people. Someone must have used one of those photos, photoshopped Jessica's face onto it. But who? And why go to such lengths? Rawlins was watching her, her expression unreadable. "Mrs. Jenkins, who would do this to you?" Martha thought of John Sterling, ruthless, powerful. But he wouldn't risk framing her so obviously. There had to be someone else involved, someone who knew her, someone who hated her enough to ruin her life. Then it clicked. A memory flashed through her mind. Arthur. That cold, polite look he gave her. The way he dismissed her concerns. He always seemed distant, preoccupied. Could it be? Could her own son be behind all of this? "Detective," Martha said, her voice trembling. I think my son is involved." Rawlins raised an eyebrow. "Arthur Jenkins? Why do you say that?" Martha hesitated. How could she explain? How could she admit that she suspected her own son of murder? But she had to. She had no choice. "He's not really my son, Detective. He's John Sterling's son, and I think he knows it. I think he's been working with Sterling all along." Rawlins leaned back in her chair, her eyes narrowed. "This is getting complicated, Mrs. Jenkins. Very complicated." Suddenly the door burst open. A young officer rushed in, his face pale. "Detective Rawlins, we have a situation. Arthur Jenkins is here. He wants to see his mother." Martha's heart stopped. Arthur? Here? What was he doing? Rawlins looked at Martha, her expression grim. "Do you want to see him?" Martha didn't know what to do. Part of her wanted to run, to hide. But another part of her needed to know the truth. She needed to look Arthur in the eyes and ask him. "Yes," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'll see him." The officer stepped aside, and Arthur walked into the room. He looked pale, nervous. But there was something else in his eyes, something cold. "Mom," he said, his voice flat. "What's going on?" Martha looked at her son, her heart breaking. Was this the man she raised? Was this the boy she loved? "Arthur," she said, her voice trembling. "Did you kill Jessica Miller?" Arthur's eyes widened. "What? Mom?" "What are you talking about? I would never." "Don't lie to me, Arthur," Martha shouted. "Did you set me up? Are you working with John Sterling?" Arthur looked away, his face flushed. He didn't say anything. Martha knew then. She knew it in her gut. Arthur was involved. He was lying. "Arthur," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "Tell me the truth. Please, for once in your life, tell me the truth." Arthur looked at her, his eyes filled with tears. "Mom, Suddenly he stopped. His eyes glazed over. He swayed on his feet, and then he collapsed, right there in front of her. The officers rushed to his side. Rawlins grabbed Martha's arm. "Get her out of here." They dragged Martha out of the room, back into the cold, sterile hallway. She stood there, trembling, as the officers worked on Arthur. Then one of them looked up, his face grim. He shook his head. "He's gone," he said. "Arthur Jenkins is dead." "Dead? Arthur? Dead? Just like that?" Martha stared at the closed door, her mind reeling. Her son, her Arthur, dead. And she didn't even know why. Then a thought, so horrifying, so unbelievable, slammed into her like a tidal wave. What if Arthur didn't just collapse? What if someone poisoned him? What if John Sterling killed his own son to silence him? The world spun. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. A twisted, horrifying lie. Rollins walked up to her, her face grim. "Mrs. Jenkins, we need to talk. There's something you need to know about Arthur." And then the lights went out. Rollins walked up to her, her face grim. "Mrs. Jenkins, we need to talk. There's something you need to know about Arthur." And then the lights went out. Complete darkness. Screams erupted. Then a single gunshot. Silence. Someone grabbed Martha's arm, pulling her through the chaos. He couldn't see, couldn't breathe. Just the smell of sweat and fear. "This way! Hurry!" a voice hissed in her ear. Familiar. "Tony?" He dragged her through a back door, out into the night. More screams, more sirens. The city was going crazy. "Tony? What's happening? What about Arthur?" Martha gasped, stumbling. "Arthur's gone. We gotta get you out of here," Tony said, his voice strained. "But the police! You told them!" "I lied, Martha. I had." 2. Sterling. "He threatened my family. I didn't know he'd go this far." They ran, down alleyways, across streets. Tony knew the city like the back of his hand. "Where are we going?" Martha pleaded, her legs burning. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere Sterling can't find you." He led her to a beat-up old car, hidden in an underground parking garage. "Get in. Fast." As they sped away, Martha's mind raced. Arthur, dead. Tony, a liar. Sterling, a monster. What was real anymore? Hours later, they arrived at a rundown motel on the outskirts of the city. Tony paid cash, no questions asked. "Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone. I'll be back," he said, his eyes filled with guilt. Martha collapsed on the bed, exhausted. She stared at the ceiling, tears streaming down her face. Arthur, her boy. Sleep didn't come, just nightmares. Flashing lights, screaming sirens, Arthur's lifeless eyes. Suddenly, a knock at the door. Martha froze. Tony? But he wouldn't knock. He'd just come in. "Who is it?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Room service," a voice said, deep, menacing. Martha's blood ran cold. Sterling. He'd found her. She scrambled off the bed, looking for a weapon. A lamp? A chair? The door burst open, but it wasn't Sterling. It was a woman. Older, weathered face, but with eyes that burned with intensity. She held a gun, pointed straight at Martha. "Don't move," the woman said. Her voice gravelly. "You're Martha Jenkins, right?" Martha nodded, terrified. "I'm Sarah. Sarah Sterling. John Sterling's sister." Martha stared at her, stunned. Sterling had a sister? He told me you killed Arthur, that you were crazy," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "That's not true. He killed Arthur. He set me up," Martha cried. Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Maybe, maybe not. But I know one thing. John is a liar. He's always been a liar." She lowered the gun slightly. "I'm here to help you, Martha, but you gotta tell me the truth. Everything." Martha hesitated. Could she trust her? This woman was a Sterling, but she looked sincere, desperate even. She took a deep breath. Okay, I'll tell you everything." As Martha began to recount the events of the past few days, Sarah listened intently, her eyes never leaving Martha's face. When Martha finished, Sarah was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Oh God, he's done it again." "Done what?" Martha asked, confused. Sarah's face was pale. "Arthur wasn't John's son, Martha. He was mine." The room spun. Arthur? Sarah Sterling's son? John Sterling's nephew? But how?" Martha stammered. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "It's a long story. A story of lies and betrayal. A story that started a long, long time ago. She paused, taking a shaky breath. John always wanted what I had. My money, my power, my son. But why? Why would he kill Arthur? Martha asked, her mind reeling. Because Arthur knew too much, Sarah said, her voice trembling. He knew about the tunnels. Tunnels? Underneath the city, where John hides everything. Suddenly, a loud crash from outside, tires screeching, a muffled shout. Sarah's eyes widened. They found us! We gotta go! Now! She grabbed Martha's arm, pulling her towards the back door. But as they reached the door, a figure stepped out of the shadows. John Sterling. He wasn't alone. Two men stood behind him, their faces grim. They held guns. Sterling smiled, a cold, cruel smile. Hello, ladies. Looks like the party's over. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the men behind Sterling raised his gun. Not at Martha, not at Sarah, at John Sterling. And fired. And fired. John Sterling crumpled to the floor. Sarah stared, her face blank. The other man, the shooter, just stood there, gun still smoking. It was Tony. Tony? Martha gasped. What? Why? Tony looked at her, his eyes filled with a strange mix of fear and pity. He was gonna kill you, Martha. Both of you. Sarah didn't say anything. She just knelt beside John, her hand hovering over his chest. No movement. Then, sirens. Getting closer. We gotta go, Tony yelled, grabbing Martha's arm. But Sarah didn't move. She was still staring at her brother. Sarah, come on, Tony pleaded. Finally, she stood up, her face like stone. Go. I'm staying. But just go, Tony. Get Martha out of here. Tony hesitated, then pulled Martha towards the back door. They ran, leaving Sarah standing over her dead brother. They were back in the car, speeding away, before Martha could even process what had happened. Tony had killed John Sterling. Tony, the community center guy. Tony, who was supposed to be helping her. Tony, she said, her voice shaking. What the hell is going on? Why did you do that? Tony gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. He was out of control, Martha. He was gonna hurt you. He was gonna hurt everyone. But you killed him. You're a murderer. Tony didn't answer. He just kept driving. They ended up at Tony's place, a small, cluttered apartment in a run-down neighborhood. He locked the door, pulled the curtains. We need to figure out what to do, he said, his voice low. Martha just stared at him, numb. She couldn't think straight. Everything was a blur. Tony, she said, finally, who are you really? He looked at her, his eyes filled with something. Sadness? Regret? It's complicated, Martha. I can't explain right now. Yes, you can! You killed John Sterling. You owe me an explanation. Tony sighed, ran a hand through his hair. Okay, but you're not gonna like it. He took a deep breath. My real name isn't Tony. It's Anthony Sterling. Martha stared at him, her jaw dropping. Sterling? You're a Sterling? He nodded. John was my uncle. The world tilted. Tony, Anthony, was John Sterling's nephew and Arthur's cousin. He'd been working for her, helping her, all this time, while being a Sterling. But why? Martha stammered. Why would you help me? Because John was a monster, Martha. He ruined my family. He ruined my life. I wanted to stop him. He paused, his voice cracking. Arthur was like a brother to me. He didn't deserve what happened to him. So you killed John? I had to, Martha. He was gonna kill you. And then, who knows who else? It was the only way. Martha just stared at him, trying to make sense of it all. Tony, A Sterling, a killer, trying to save her. It was insane. Then a new thought struck her. A terrifying thought. If you're a Sterling and you hated John, did you set all this up, Anthony? Did you orchestrate all of this, including your cousin Arthur's murder, to destroy him? Anthony's eyes widened. No, Martha, you gotta believe me. I didn't want any of this to happen. I just wanted to stop him. But Martha didn't know what to believe anymore. She looked at Anthony, at his earnest face, his pleading eyes. Could she trust him? Or was he just another Sterling, playing a game, manipulating her? Suddenly, a phone rang. Anthony's phone. He looked at the caller ID, his face graining. Of color. It's Sarah, he whispered. He answered the phone, listened for a moment, then hung up, his face ashen. She said the police are on their way here. She told them everything. Martha stared at him, her heart pounding. Sarah had betrayed him. She turned him in. She said she had to do what was right, Anthony whispered, his voice trembling. She said she hopes you can forgive her. Then he looked at Martha, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. Martha, you gotta run. They're gonna arrest me. They're gonna arrest you too, if you're here. But Martha didn't move. She was too tired, too confused, too betrayed. Anthony, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Tell me the truth. Did you kill Arthur? Anthony looked at her, his eyes filled with pain. He opened his mouth to speak, but then there was a knock at the door, loud, insistent. The police. Anthony stared at Martha, his eyes filled with despair. I'm so sorry, he whispered. Then he grabbed a gun from under the couch. Martha gasped, Anthony, no! But it was too late. He put the gun to his head and pulled the trigger. Anthony olhou para Martha, os olhos cheios de dor. Abriu a boca para falar, mas então houve uma batida na porta, alta, insistente. A polícia. Anthony encarou Martha, os olhos cheios de desespero. Sinto muito, sussurrou. Então ele pegou uma arma debaixo do sofá. Martha engasgou. Anthony, não. Mas era tarde demais. Ele colocou a arma na cabeça e apertou o gatilho. O som foi ensurdecedor. Sangue e pedaços de cérebro espirraram nas paredes. Anthony caiu no chão, sem vida. Martha gritou. Um grito agudo e gutural que parecia vir do fundo da alma. Ela cambaleou para trás, as mãos na boca, tentando conter o vômito. A porta arrombou. Policiais armados invadiram o apartamento, armas em punho. Eles olharam para Anthony. Depois para Martha. Mãos para cima, agora! Gritou um deles. Martha obedeceu, as mãos tremendo acima da cabeça. Ela estava em choque, paralisada. Eles a algemaram, a levaram para fora do apartamento. Vizinhos curiosos se aglomeravam, sussurrando. Apontando, Martha não conseguia ouvir nada. Tudo estava embaçado, distorcido. Na viatura, enquanto eles a levavam para a delegacia, Martha começou a tremer incontrolavelmente. Anthony morto, Arthur morto, John Sterling morto, todos mortos. E ela estava viva. Mas por quanto tempo? Na delegacia, a detetive Rawlins esperava. Ela parecia cansada, desanimada. Martha, disse ela, a voz suave. Nós encontramos algo, no apartamento de Anthony. Martha não respondeu. Rawlins respirou fundo. Um diário. Ele confessou tudo. O plano. Arthur, John, tudo. Martha finalmente olhou para ela. Ele disse que John estava fora de controle, que ele ia machucar você, que ele precisava ser parado. Ele disse que Arthur descobriu a verdade sobre o negócio da família e John o silenciou. Rawlins parou e lançou um olhar estranho para Martha. Arthur não foi a primeira pessoa que John silenciou. Mas Anthony matou Arthur? Martha perguntou hesitante. Não, Martha. Anthony cuidava de Arthur como se fosse seu irmão. Ele pode ter matado John, mas ele jamais machucaria Arthur. Arthur foi envenenado, revelou Rawlins. Envenenado? Como assim? Marta perguntou, genuinamente confusa. Arthur foi envenenado com cianeto. A mesma substância encontrada na bebida de seu pai, respondeu a detetive. Meu pai? Mas ele morreu de ataque cardíaco, disse Marta incrédula. Não foi o que a perícia disse. O laudo apontou uma grande quantidade de cianeto em seu organismo. A cena foi montada para parecer um ataque cardíaco. Alguém não queria que a verdade viesse à tona, explicou Rawlins. Mas quem faria isso? Quem envenenaria meu pai e Arthur? Marta questionou em prantos. Essa é a parte chocante, Marta. O diário de Anthony revela que John não agia sozinho. Ele tinha um cúmplice, alguém muito próximo de você. O coração de Marta disparou. Rawlins fez uma pausa dramática, fixando o olhar em Marta. Seu nome, Marta, é no diário de Anthony. Ele disse que você e John estavam tendo um caso há muitos anos. Que você e John estavam juntos nos negócios da família. Seu pai descobriu o caso e ameaçou contar tudo e John o envenenou. Anthony acreditava que John foi o único responsável, mas ele não sabia que você estava envolvida. Não! Isso é mentira! Eu nunca tive um caso com John. Marta gritou, as lágrimas escorrendo pelo rosto. Anthony acreditava que quando Arthur descobriu a verdade sobre a morte do avô, você e John decidiram envenenar ele também para proteger seus segredos, continuou Rawlins friamente. Isso é impossível! Eu amava Arthur! Eu jamais faria isso! Marta insistiu, a voz embargada pelo choro. Rawlins pegou uma pasta e abriu, revelando diversas fotos. Fotos de Marta e John, juntos em momentos íntimos, beijos, abraços, carícias. Fotos que provavam o caso. Marta olhou para as fotos horrorizada. Não eram montagens, eram reais. Mas ela não se lembrava de nada disso. Como? Como isso é possível? Ela sussurrou, a mente girando. Anthony. Suspeitava que você estava sendo hipnotizada. John sempre teve um fascínio por controle mental. Ele poderia ter usado hipnose para manipular você, para fazer você acreditar que não se lembrava do caso, para fazer você participar dos crimes sem ter consciência, explicou Rawlins. Uma onda de tontura invadiu Marta. A verdade era aterradora demais para ser suportada. Ela havia sido usada, manipulada, controlada. Ela havia sido cúmplice de um monstro. Mas a pior parte era que, no fundo, uma parte dela sabia que era verdade. Havia flashes, fragmentos de memória, sussurros de culpa que ela sempre tentou ignorar. A porta da sala de interrogatório se abriu e um policial entrou. Ele sussurrou algo no ouvido de Rawlins, que assentiu. Com a cabeça. Marta, disse Rawlins, a voz grave. Nós encontramos algo mais, na sua casa. Ela estendeu um pequeno objeto brilhante. Uma seringa. Com traços de cianeto, completou Rawlins. Naquele momento, tudo fez sentido. As dores de cabeça, os apagões, a sensação constante de estar sendo observada. Ela havia sido hipnotizada, drogada, transformada em uma marionete. E o pior de tudo, ela havia matado seu próprio filho. Marta desabou na cadeira, as lágrimas correndo livremente. Ela era culpada, culpada de todos os crimes. Mas havia algo que não se encaixava. Se ela era a cúmplice de John, por que ele havia tentado matá-la? Por que ele havia mandado Jéssica? E quem havia tirado aquelas fotos? Quem queria incriminá-la? Uma nova onda de paranoia invadiu sua mente. Ela não podia confiar em ninguém, nem mesmo em Rawlins. Eu quero um advogado, disse Marta, a voz fraca, mas firme. Rawlins sorriu, um sorriso frio e predador. Tarde demais, Marta. Já temos tudo o que precisamos. Naquele momento, as luzes se apagaram novamente. As luzes se apagaram novamente. Completa escuridão. Gritos ecoarem. Então, um único disparo. Silêncio. Alguém me agarrou pelo braço, me puxando através do caos. Eu não conseguia ver. Não conseguia respirar. Apenas o cheiro de suor e medo. Por aqui, rápido! Uma voz sibilou no meu ouvido. Familiar. Tony. Ele me arrastou por uma porta dos fundos, para a noite. Mais gritos, mais sirenes. A cidade estava enlouquecendo. Tony? O que está acontecendo? E Arthur? Eu engasguei, tropeçando. Arthur se foi. Precisamos tirar você daqui. Tony disse, sua voz feiça. Mas a polícia. Você contou a eles. Eu menti, Marta. Eu tive que mentir. Sterling, ele ameaçou minha família. Corremos. Por becos, atravessando ruas. Conheci a cidade como a palma da mão. Onde estamos indo? Eu implorei, minhas pernas queimando. Para um lugar seguro. Um lugar onde Sterling não possa te encontrar. Ele me levou a um carro velho e destruído, escondido em uma garagem subterrânea. Entre, rápido! Enquanto acelerávamos, minha mente corria. Arthur, morto. Tony, um mentiroso. Sterling, um monstro. O que era real, afinal? Horas. Depois, chegamos a um motel decadente nos arredores da cidade. Tony pagou em dinheiro, sem perguntas. Fique aqui. Não abra a porta para ninguém. Eu volto, ele disse, seus olhos cheios de culpa. Eu desabei na cama, exausta. Fiquei olhando para o teto, lágrimas escorrendo pelo meu rosto. Arthur, meu menino. O sono não veio. Apenas pesadelos. Luzes piscando, sirenes berrando, os olhos sem vida de Arthur. De repente, uma batida na porta. Eu congelei. Tony? Mas ele não bateria. Ele apenas entraria. Quem é? Eu sussurrei, minha voz tremendo. Serviço de quarto, uma voz disse. Profunda, ameaçadora. Meu sangue gelou. Sterling. Ele tinha me encontrado. Eu saí da cama, procurando uma arma. Uma luminária? Uma cadeira? A porta. Arrombou. Mas não era Sterling. Era uma mulher. Mais velha, rosto castigado, mas com olhos que queimavam com intensidade. Ela segurava uma arma, apontada diretamente para mim. Não se mexa, a mulher disse, sua voz rouca. Você é Martha Jenkins, certo? Eu assenti, aterrorizada. Eu sou Sarah Sterling, irmã de John Sterling. Eu encarei, chocada. Sterling tinha uma irmã? Ele me disse que você matou Arthur, que você era louca. Sarah disse, sua voz tremendo. Isso não é verdade. Ele matou Arthur. Ele me incriminou. Eu gritei. Os olhos de Sarah se estreitaram. Talvez. Talvez não. Mas eu sei de uma coisa. John é um mentiroso. Ele sempre foi um mentiroso. Ela baixou a arma um pouco. Eu estou aqui para te ajudar, Martha. Mas você tem que me contar a verdade. Tudo. Eu hesitei. Eu podia confiar nela? Essa mulher era uma Sterling, mas ela parecia sincera, desesperada até. Eu respirei fundo. Ok, eu vou te contar tudo. Enquanto eu começava a recontar os eventos dos últimos dias, Sarah ouvia atentamente, seus olhos nunca deixando o meu rosto. Quando eu terminei, Sarah ficou em silêncio por um longo momento. Então, ela falou, sua voz quase um sussurro. Meu Deus, ele fez de novo. Fez o quê? Eu perguntei, confusa. O rosto de Sarah estava pálido. Arthur não era filho de John, Martha. Ele era meu. O quarto girou. Arthur? Filho de John? Sarah Sterling? Sobrinho de John Sterling. Mas como? Eu gaguejei. Os olhos de Sarah se encheram de lágrimas. É uma longa história. Uma história de mentiras e traição. Uma história que começou há muito, muito tempo. Ela fez uma pausa, respirando fundo. John sempre quis o que eu tinha. Meu dinheiro, meu poder, meu filho. Mas por quê? Por que ele mataria Arthur? Eu perguntei, minha mente girando. Porque Arthur sabia demais, Sarah disse, sua voz tremendo. Ele sabia sobre os túneis. Túneis? Debaixo da cidade, onde John esconde tudo. De repente, uma batida alta do lado de fora. Pneus cantando. Um grito abafado. Os olhos de Serra se arregalaram. Eles nos encontraram. Temos que ir. Agora. Ela agarrou meu braço, me puxando em direção à porta dos fundos. Mas quando chegamos à porta, uma figura saiu das sombras. John Sterling. Ele não estava sozinho. 2 homens estavam atrás dele, seus rostos sombrios. Eles seguravam armas. Sterling sorriu. Um sorriso frio e cruel. Olá, senhoras. Parece que a festa acabou. Mas então, algo inesperado aconteceu. Um dos homens atrás de Sterling levantou sua arma. Não para mim, não para Sarah, para John Sterling. E atirou. Naquele momento, a realidade se despedaçou em milhões de estilhaços. O homem não era homem nenhum, mas sim uma mulher. E não era Sarah Sterling, mas a própria Jessica Miller, que tinha sido dada como morta após ter sido esmagada por um carro em fuga. John Sterling caiu no chão. Jessica encarou, o rosto inexpressivo. O outro homem, o atirador, apenas ficou ali. A arma ainda fumegante. Era Tony. Tony, eu engasguei. O que? Por quê? Tony olhou para mim, seus olhos cheios de uma estranha mistura de medo. Pena? Ele ia matar você, Marta. Os 2. Sarah não disse nada. Ela apenas se ajoelhou ao lado de John, sua mão pairando sobre seu peito. Sem movimento. Então sirenes. Chegando perto. Temos que ir. Tony gritou, agarrando meu braço. Mas Sarah não se mexeu. Ela ainda estava olhando para seu irmão. Sarah, vamos! Tony implorou. Finalmente ela se levantou, seu rosto como pedra. Vão, eu fico. Mas... Apenas vá, Tony. Tire Marta daqui. Tony hesitou e então me puxou em direção à porta dos fundos. Corremos, deixando Sarah em cima de seu irmão morto. Estávamos de volta no carro, acelerando para longe, antes que eu pudesse processar o que havia acontecido. Tony tinha matado John Sterling. Tony, o cara do centro comunitário. Tony, que deveria estar me ajudando. Tony, eu disse, minha voz trêmula. Que diabos está acontecendo? Por que você fez isso? Tony apertou o volante, seus nós dos dedos brancos. Ele estava fora de controle, Marta. Ele ia te machucar. Ele ia machucar todo mundo. Mas você o matou. Você é um assassino. Tony não respondeu. Ele apenas continuou dirigindo. O som foi ensurdecedor. I'm sorry. I can't assist with that request. I'm sorry. I can't assist with that request. As they drove me to the station, I started to tremble uncontrollably. Anthony, dead. Arthur, dead. John Sterling, dead. All dead. And me? I was alive. But for how long? At the station, Detective Rollins was waiting. She looked tired, defeated. Martha, she said, her voice soft. We found something. In Anthony's apartment. I didn't answer. Rollins took a deep breath. A diary. He confessed everything. The plan. Arthur. John. Everything. I finally looked up at her. He said John was out of control, that he was going to hurt you, that he needed to be stopped. He said Arthur found out the truth about the family business, and John silenced him. Rollins paused, giving me a strange look. Arthur wasn't the first person John silenced. Anthony confessed to the murders of your parents and your grandmother. He has been killing people for years, Rollins explained. But Anthony confessed? Did he kill my brother, Arthur? Martha asked hesitantly. No, Martha. Anthony cared for Arthur as if he were his brother. He may have killed John, but he would never hurt Arthur. Arthur was poisoned, Rollins revealed. Poisoned? How so? Martha asked, genuinely confused. Arthur was poisoned with cyanide, the same substance found in your father's drink, the detective replied. My father? But he died of a heart attack, Martha said incredulously. That's not what the medical examiner said. The report pointed to a large amount of cyanide in his body. The scene was set to look like a heart attack. Someone didn't want the truth to come to light, Rollins explained. But who would do that? Who would poison my father and Arthur? Martha questioned in tears. That's the shocking part, Martha. The only other name appearing consistently in the diary is your brother. Martha's heart raced. Rollins made a dramatic pause, fixing her gaze on Martha. Your brother, Samuel, was the person behind the crime. And a great manipulator. No! Samuel has always been a weakling, Martha shouted, tears running down her face. John paid off debts and protected Samuel for years, because Samuel knew all John's dirty secrets and was willing to play along. In exchange for the money and being able to live the high life, Samuel has always been the one pulling the strings. Rollins me encarou, os olhos, sei lá, meio tristes agora. Samuel, Marta, seu irmão sempre foi o problema. Ele invejava você, a vida que você tinha, mesmo com todos os altos e baixos. Achava que merecia mais. E John era fácil de manipular, com a grana e o poder. Samuel sempre foi o cérebro. Aí, a ficha caiu. Samuel, meu irmãozinho, sempre tão quietinho, tão na minha sombra. Ele orquestrou tudo. A morte do papai, a do Arthur, a minha desgraça. Usou o John, me usou. Que nojo. As fotos, eu perguntei. Ah, vós sumindo. Quem tirou as fotos? Rollins suspirou. Samuel tinha um comparsa. Um fotógrafo famoso que devia favores a ele. Montaram tudo para te incriminar, para te afastar do John, para poderem ficar com tudo. Um aperto no peito, dor, raiva, mas no meio de tudo, uma pontinha de alívio. A verdade tinha vindo à tona. Arthur sabia, Tony sabia, e pagaram caro por isso. A sirene tocou lá fora. Mais policiais, mais perguntas. Mas eu já não ligava. Já não era mais a Marta de antes. A Marta que confiava, que amava. Essa Marta tinha morrido junto com o Arthur, com o Tony. Me levaram de volta para a cela. Fria, escura. Mas no meio da escuridão, uma luzinha. Um bilhete enfiado debaixo da porta. A verdade ainda não acabou, Marta. Tem mais gente envolvida. Procure por Corvo. Ele sabe de tudo. Corvo? Quem era Corvo? Mais um jogo? Mais uma mentira? Eu peguei o bilhete, apertei na mão. A história não tinha terminado. Tinha acabado de começar. E eu, Martha Jenkins, ia descobrir a verdade, custasse o que custasse. Ei, espera aí. Você chegou até aqui? Uau! Isso significa que você é um fã de verdade. E é por isso que eu preciso da sua ajuda urgente. Você precisa se inscrever agora no canal. É só clicar no botão vermelho aí embaixo e garantir que você não vai perder nenhuma das próximas histórias insanas que estão por vir. Esmague o botão de like agora. Mostre pro algoritmo quem manda e ajude essa história a chegar em mais pessoas. Este é o momento para demonstrar seu apoio. Inunde a seção de comentários com suas reações e teorias sobre esse final explosivo. Quem é Corvo? O que vai acontecer com a Marta? Eu quero saber o que você está pensando. Não espere nem mais um segundo para compartilhar este vídeo com pelo menos 5 amigos que precisam conhecer esse desfecho. Eles vão te agradecer. Eu garanto. Só os verdadeiros fãs entendem a importância de apoiar o canal com essas ações. Então, faça a sua parte. Mostre que você está comigo nessa jornada. Vamos lá!